intentionally. Breathe easy, green, earth-friendly, LEED certified, and other fancy things. It sits atop the crown of the city as a model for how architects are supposed to blueprint diversity. For a while I felt ungrateful to question this map that I lived in, High Point. It was much worse before they told me, and only a few people were left to tell that side of the story. I knew the history from afar. I used to live in the backyard of Columbia City, the valley where you could find people from all walks of life within just a few blocks. Where the 7 was hardly ever late and we ate lemons with ginger in the middle and bought Christmas trees from Chubby's and Tubby's. Does anybody remember Chubby's? Yeah, all right. I lived in a cul-de-sac before, what some people would call a cavity or decay. But where we lived, we grew community through struggle and with love, because our neighbors were our family, and though the apartments weren't necessarily pretty, food and shelter was enough. It was rough in High Point before, they used to tell me, and then they'd retreat back into their homes, but I still felt alone here, unconvinced that this planned community was successful, as I saw people segregated by race and class on different blocks. Fear in the eyes of people, of homeowners who walked down the renters' blocks, following eyes as I watched blatant racism even on the online blogs, 2 separate worlds, one a marketing scheme and the other just pushing along. It used to be rough here, and before that, what was it? A housing settlement for World War II vets, and now just a pool of poverty covered up by manicured streets. We need to address the situation at the root, so why are we trimming the trees? But this is ironic. I moved to High Point so that I could breathe more easily, because in our family, asthma was normalized. We carried inhalers like they were our keys, having to open up our lungs just so that we could breathe. Still, I don't blame the buildings or the mold. I don't even blame the neighborhood. In these places, they held our hearts. Before the hipsters started moving in and condos were built on every other block, we looked at each other just a little bit longer in the eyes. And I didn't feel like I was going to my house. I felt like I was going to my home. My neighbor was our manager. My neighbor was an architect. My other neighbor was a mother. My other neighbor was a play director. And for the most part, we all knew each other. Community is deeper than 4 walls, a few medals, and especially not the fleet of the poor. It cannot be photographed well, or marketed, or bought, or sold. It is more than a pulse. Community is what keeps family together. For example, it's what kept my family together after my grandmother, the matriarch, was taken from the CD like a baby from its mother and placed in Rainer Vista to live with the elderly others. It is why I care at all about the connectedness of myself and my actions. It's the Seattle hip-hop community, as youth speaks, is holding each other together and accountable through struggle and through celebration. I took this word for granted, community, because a lot of times it's played out. Sugar-coated, displayed in cursive, candy painted, when in actuality it's raw and simple, like, can you ask your neighbor for a stick of butter? Do you know your neighbor's name? In addition to racism, class is a disease and a condition that we are all placed in, forced to deal with. And modeling neighborhoods where the rich are supposed to be examples for the poor is only construing the truth even more. We need resources, not pity, not another pretty building, but actual investments in the futures of our youth. Architects should collaborate with current residents who want to bring about physical changes on equal planes. Breathable living spaces for all families, access to healthy food and transportation to get us there. We need healthy communities, not just pretty ones. Thank you.